Several of Trump's most controversial cabinet picks have their confirmation hearings this week. First up, with two hearings on Wednesday and Thursday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump's choice to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. If confirmed, Kennedy would have sweeping control over 18 agencies, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Food and Drug Administration, and, of course, the National Institutes of Health. The selection of Kennedy, a longtime anti-vaccine activist, has drawn widespread backlash, including from one of two polio survivors in Congress, Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee. In fact, he recently argued in an op-ed that RFK Jr. should not be in charge of the health of the United States, writing in part, quote, "I have been the child who did not receive the vaccine, and polio has been a constant part of my life. It is an affront to me that we would even consider permitting anyone to endanger the lives of our citizens, particularly our children, whose health all public officials should always protect." Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee joins me now. Congressman, it's great to see you again. Thanks for coming back on the show. Elaborate on your arguments against RFK Jr. serving as HHS Secretary and the dangers of his anti-vaccine stance as someone, as I mentioned, survived polio.
Well, as a polio survivor, I feel a duty to speak up for all polio victims, whether people alive today suffering from post-polio or not suffering at all, and those that died were extremely crippled because of polio. If we stop having the polio vaccine be given and we halt it, there's a likelihood that we will have an extreme number of people in our country have polio and suffer from the effects of this devastating disease. Bobby Kennedy had, through the years, been against vaccines, made suggestions or talks about different studies that have been debunked, clearly debunked, and saying that the vaccines cause more damage than they do good. And, of course, no scientist subscribes to that theory. And he would be in charge of policies in this country. And right after we've had the great pandemic of COVID, and we've got bird flu possibly we've got it on the horizon, and whether it'll affect humans or not, I don't know. There's a possibility that it will. He's not the right person to be in charge of medicine and vaccines that protect children and protect adults. And I'm concerned about it. I know Bobby. We were campaigned together for his Uncle Ted in 1980. He's always been friendly when we've been around each other. But he's been wedded to these theories for years. Some of his closest advisors are attorneys who prosecuted cases against vaccines and think the vaccines are wrong, and they make money out of them, which I think Bobby has too. And we need to protect the public and not put them in jeopardy, as happened in American Samoa when Bobby told the people there that the vaccines for mumps were killing more people, mumps or measles, were killing more people because of the vaccine, and a lot of people died because of that.
There's been some confusion at the federal health agencies this week after the Trump administration put an abrupt freeze on external communications and meetings and research grants. The Washington Post reports that one cancer researcher said everything is basically in chaos. What concerns you about these kinds of changes that are happening, and to what extent do you think RFK Jr. would double down on those kinds of shifts should he be confirmed, that we have less transparency into the health agencies and the scientific institutes in this country?
Well, it concerns me greatly because I've always had a great respect for physicians. My father was a doctor. I guess I was supposed to be a doctor and didn't do it. But doctors know best and scientists know best. And they and the NIH is a temple for our country, for the vaccines and the drugs that they've approved that have saved people's lives or improved people's lives. And to put them in some type of a limiting role where they can't discuss what they're doing or can't continue what they're doing is criminal. And it will cause injuries to people. It will cause disease to spread, and people will suffer. Bobby has shown, Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And Bobby's shown his opposition to vaccines. He's wedded to that. That's been a part of his life, just as polio has been a part of mine. And he will continue to push to limit vaccines, no matter what he says. And he will limit the polio vaccine as well as all other vaccines. And this is a danger to the American public and to the world.
What can Democrats really do here? I mean, I know that when we're looking at what just happened with Pete Hegseth, arguably more controversial than RFK Jr., he managed to get through the confirmation process, and that might be a psychological blow to Democrats who may oppose RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard or Kash Patel.
Well, it was definitely bad because you had 3 Republicans, and it seems that there are only 3 that will vote contrary to President Trump's recommendations. And they were all kind of came to the bar rather gingerly and at the last minute. Senator Collins and Senator McConnell, although Senator Murkowski was out front. You don't know what will happen. And people need to think about this very closely. There's a doctor, well-known Dr. Lavin, who published a piece recently about the dangers and the possibility of a bird flu pandemic and the need for the CDC and the NIH to be involved, for doctors and scientists to be involved, and to have all the resources they can to fight that disease if it becomes prevalent in humans and replicates, and it very well could. And we need to be in the World Health Organization. The fact that we've gotten out of that organization is a great benefit to people all over the world. It's just a crime what we're doing, and it's Trump who's doing it.
Yeah, indeed, it was a shocking decision to pull out of the World Health Organization there, especially as you mentioned with bird flu on the horizon, and who knows what else could be coming down the pipeline. Congressman Steve Cohen, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Nice to be back.
Thank you. Next up, it is